This is Seek Sustainable Japan. I just changed the name from last year. And today we are talking with German-born Dorothee Eshin Takatsu, who
Yes.
is founder and running as a teacher at Horakuan Zen Retreat Center in Nagano. Thank you so much for joining, Dorothy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I enjoy it. Yeah.
Wonderful. And we have this beautiful mandala design that you
Yes.
sent as one of your pictures.
Mm.
I love that. All the flowers and leaves arranged in a beautiful design.
Yes, that was one part of our activities that we do during the retreats I'm holding at Horakuan. Yeah, out in nature and gather some natural materials and then make a design of a mandala. And fortunately, I had these huge old trays that are perfect for the design.
Gorgeous. Let's start with a little bit about you and how you started Horakuan. I read an article on Japan Times
Yeah.
from many years ago
Mm, mm,
about how you were starting the first monastery building, which
mm.
was actually an abandoned building that you renovated itself. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. It's an old traditional farmhouse. It was built around 115 years ago, and it's really the traditional and design of any Japanese farmhouse in these areas. So the house itself was nothing special, but it was in a location that is surrounded by trees. You pass through the woods, and then suddenly you have this big opening. And there was this one house that was still in a quite a good shape. And even though the weather was terrible when I first saw it, it was February, snow and dark, no flowers, no green, no nothing. The location was so nice that I immediately thought that is the place I would like to where to rent. And I contacted the owner, and she said, "Yeah, it's possible. I could rent it." And I had a look at the house, and fortunately, the roof was still. It wasn't leaking, so as long as the roof is okay, you can do anything with a house. So I rented it for 5,000 yen a month, which is really
Wow.
nothing. I would have liked to buy it, but well, that was not possible. So I'm still renting it now. That was in 2004. The house itself, as I said, the roof was okay, even though on the picture it's a new roof now, but at that time it was okay. And inside it was a mess. It was really a mess, but well, it didn't look like this, definitely. So I had about half a year to clean the mess and do some basic renovations before I had my opening ceremony. At that time in 2004, I had done my ordination as a priest, or the lowest rank as a priest, about 2 years ago. And I was starting to go to training in a monastery, and I had asked the Roshi, which is the head priest of the monastery, to join me for the ceremony, opening ceremony, and he agreed. So yeah, I had about that was in I planned the ceremony for October, and I started to rent it in April. So that was half a year to get it in some kind of shape. Yeah, so that was really dirty and hard and intensive. But it wasn't stressful because it was on my terms. I planned my timing, even though I had the pressure, but it wasn't under anybody's rule that I had to do it. So it wasn't stressful. It was hard, but not stressful. And that's a big difference. Yeah. Yeah, about the
That's
activities.
really
Yeah.
that's really important, I think, and you
Mm.
are walking the walk as well as talking the talk
Yes.
about how to be mindful and how to think of a good
Mm,
philosophy to live your life. I
mm.
have a great quote from the Japan Times article, and it says, "You were looking for a place to make use of what you had learned over the 5 years of your training."
Yes, well, that article was after I had finished my training. I have to say, I renovated the place, but the retreat programs and everything didn't start after much later, because at the beginning, at the very, very first beginning, I didn't even know what I would want to have that building for. I had done some Buddhist studies on my own, and also a program in Tokyo, 1 year program, and so on. So I did several things, but I had first planned to do to do any kind of activities in our temple at home. You know, my husband is a priest and has a temple. Oh, now we have the background music. That's a little bit, yeah.
That's beautiful. So this is from your website,
Yes, yes.
showing the facility in summertime.
Yes, that's
Beautiful.
in summer. Yes, yes, it's a nice. It's definitely nice, and only really use possible to use in the warmer months, because in winter we have a lot of snow. Like right now, I can only access it if I walk there. But as I was trying to say at the beginning, I didn't even have any plans what to do with the house, because my husband said I couldn't do any kind of activities at our temple at home, because that would be, yeah, I had other ideas from an ordinary village temple, so that wasn't possible. And then I thought, well, I just get my own place. And by the time I got the place, I had just started going to the monastery, so I couldn't offer any kind of activities, because any what I knew was just doing sitting meditation, zazen, you know. So at the beginning, I offered zazen, and then one person came, and then left, and two came, and nobody. So it was a very, very slow start until I had a group of maybe three or four. You know, it's close to the station in the sense that it only takes 20 minutes, but still it's in the mountains, it's a small road, and for people in the countryside, that's remote, you know. For the for a city, it's nothing, but for the countryside, that's remote. So not many people are coming from close to from the vicinity, you know. So it was a very, very slow start, but then the foreigners were started to come to help out in the garden and with the renovation and everything. And they asked me if I could offer some kind of overnight activities. And we were talking, and then I thought, yeah, well, that's what we do in the West, you know, with retreats. And by that time, I had finished my 5 years at the monastery. So I had more, you know, confidence to offer something. And that's where the quote comes from, because I went to the monastery not with the intention to stay there for 5 years, but no matter how hard it is, to wait for the timing when I could say, now it's enough and it's good, you know, because it's really, really, to be honest, it's really hard, the training. And even though I only joined the 6 meditation sessions a year, I didn't stay at the monastery. But if you come from a floor heated kitchen um, in Nagano to a no stove, no nothing monastery with open windows and snow inside, blowing inside, you know, and sitting in meditation, I mean, that's a big difference. So anyway, that was hard, but I said, I promised myself that I wouldn't leave just because it's hard, but when I know this is the right timing. And that, unfortunately, maybe it took 5 years. Would have been nice if it took only 2 years. But anyway, it took 5 years. And then I could really say, now I have to put into practice what I learned. And then I started with the retreat programs, and it's based on the retreats are based on putting the Zen teachings into practice in everyday life. So by that time I was already over 50s, and I thought, well, I mean, I could start studying Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy and everything, but I think people are more interested in how to practice and how to use the teachings in everyday life. So that was a no-brainer for me. I focused on that kind of practicality, and that's what the people really liked. Also, the Japanese people, they we started with. Yeah, that was interesting because the people who started coming, they asked me, could I teach them about Buddhism? And I thought, me, I mean, I'm a Japanese. How can I teach you about Buddhism? And then I said, well, I can't really teach you about Buddhism, but we can study together. And so that's where the monthly talks started, that I would maybe read some text or scriptures or whatever, but always interpret it how it could be useful for our everyday life. So, yeah,
I
and
love that. I love that
Mm,
idea
mm,
of learning together and talking
yes,
together, kind of
mm,
on the same level. Like
yes,
you
definitely.
see yourself as
Mm,
maybe a guide to help
yes,
people along the
yes,
way,
yes,
and not
definitely.
really like a
No,
priest or
no,
someone
no.
top
Ooh,
down,
no,
right?
no way. No way I would, like being called a sensei or anything like that. No way. No, that's not what I want, and that's also not helpful for anybody. It's always, I mean, yeah, now I'm more close to 70. So I have, of course, some experiences, and I can look back and I can be of more help to people with that kind of experience and put it in a context of the Zen teachings, that if I would start on, any deep philosophy of Buddhism, anybody can, if they want, they can read the books, or I cannot be helpful for that. Yeah. So we started with the Zen retreats, and then we added silent retreats that are quite popular. And what I always include is creativity. And that's where the mandala picture comes from. Because, yeah, creativity is an expression of your really true self, I would say. Yeah, I mean, you can create a work that nobody else can do, even if it wouldn't be the same. So you are focused, and especially this kind of mandala uh, um, yeah, creations are very meditative to make. And you first start, with gathering the materials, which is also a way of looking at nature from a different perspective. So this is very much in connection with what I'm trying to convey or to teach, or however you want to call it. So also we use, yeah, for example, natural materials. I mean, that's why Horakuan is so perfect for, because there's nature all around, to make, for example, mobile, which is also very meditative. You have to think about the balance, and you need patience to do it. And we do meditative drawing, which is very much like, yeah, you drawing a picture, a pattern, and a repetitive pattern, that is all so very strongly connected with meditation. So it's not just the fun of creating something, but also, yeah, to get the meditative aspect into the art. Mm.
I love that idea. Can you tell us a little bit about the meditative walking?
Oh,
Um,
yes. Mm,
you talk about
mm.
starting these kind of unusual ways to talk about or think about Zen, the silent or
Yeah.
meditative walks. Beautiful.
Yes, well, of course, that's also in connection with nature and with grounding. And if possible, we are walking barefoot, and then it's restricted to the back garden where there is grass, and you can walk on the grass. And it's very slow walk in combination with a breath. So you have so many breaths for so many steps for one out breath and so many steps for an in breath. So that kind of coordination is releases the nice hormones in the brain like serotonin and dopamine and all these good feel hormones. So it relaxes the brain, it calms the brain, and we always do that the first thing in the morning. So when it's still fresh and nice outside, and we do it before the sitting meditation, the zazen. So the mind gets into this meditative state through the walking, because that's also, I mean, of course, repetitive and really relaxing, and you focus on the path. You wouldn't look around, but you focus on the path, on the sensations. You don't use your brain. I mean, as much as possible, you are outside your brain, and you just you take everything up like a sponge. You feel the temperature, you feel the wind, you hear the sound, you feel the sensations of the different paths. When we do the longer meditation, not barefoot, when we walk with shoes, it's outside, and we walk on gravel, we walk on natural surface, and we walk up and we walk down, and we hear the sound of the water. So there are many different kinds of sensations that we can we how do you say that, you really get that, like you absorb it like a sponge and with your whole body, and you get out of your mind, and of course everything in silence. With every retreat we start in silence, no matter whether it's a silent retreat or not. So we walk in silent, and there's this stream and different kinds of water paths. So that is very, it speaks to the senses, and there's a lot to absorb. And then on our walk, we come into the new building and we do some chanting, and then we go down to Horakuan and we do the sitting meditation, some chanting, and then we have our breakfast, and only then we can start to talk. So it's really a very, in a way, intense but relaxing start of the retreat days. Mm.
I think that whole idea of being quiet
Mm.
and listening to your surroundings,
Mm.
it sounds really simple, but this is something we need to do more
Mm.
to
Oh,
heal and to recover and
yes.
refresh
Yes.
ourselves, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, especially now with COVID and everything, people have to stay inside and maybe are forced to be quiet, but that's completely different if you do it intentionally or if you have to be forced to do it. And well, these retreats are helpful to find the quietness inside. There's a potential of quietness and really relaxation inside ourselves, which we have sort of lost and don't know how to access it anymore, and it needs some practice and some refocusing on it, and it's definitely necessary, especially, I mean, COVID or not, with all that kind of overwhelming information that we have. We always use our brain much too much, and we have to get out of the brain and get into that stillness. I always say that we have to use our brain just as a tool. You use a tool when you need it, but you don't use it when you don't need it. The brain is just a tool, and it's definitely necessary and has to be sharpened and taken care of like any kind of tool. But I mean, if you don't need it, you don't use it. But we use our brains and our heads for a lot of things that we don't need it for, because like worrying about stuff, or like, living in the past, or fretting about the future or whatever, this is all just not necessary, and we have to get out of that. Mm.
I want to, before I touch on the sound meditation, which I'm very
Mm.
interested in, I
Mm.
just want to look at this beautiful picture from your facility, and the Nagano mountain range beyond is just stunning. What a beautiful
Yes,
location.
yes. Oh, yes, yes. I mean, we can see the Alps, not really from Horakuan, but a few hundred meters out of there, of that compound, you see the Alps, and it's every time it's amazing, and every season of the year it's different, and in every light and every time of the day it's different. No, no, the location is just, yeah, yeah, it's amazing, and yeah, great,
Beautiful.
definitely,
We've
yes.
we've talked to so many people in this talk show series in Nagano. It's such a special place, and it's so much variation in each
Yes,
town and each
yes,
village, and
yes.
this beautiful retreat with the
Mm.
mountain view. We've also talked to someone who offers snow sports
Ah,
in
sure.
Nagano, right? So you have such a variety.
Yes, yes. I mean, we have the onsens, the hot spring, we have the snow, and we could do hiking. I mean, for nature activities, it's just great. Yes.
Yeah. We have a wonderful comment from Facebook from Solvig Borgen.
Uh-huh.
Thank you
Yes.
so much for joining. She says, fantastic. I've been to Suzuka a few
Mm.
times, have
Mm.
quite a few friends there, and have never heard of this wonderful woman and her retreat. Thank you so much.
I hope she has time. She has can get a chance to drop by, but it should be after middle of April, because until then it's just too cold here. Yes, but definitely, please. You don't have to join a retreat. Just come by and share a cup of tea or coffee or whatever, and just for a talk. I mean, you don't have to, yeah,
That
do
sounds
any kind of
lovely.
activity.
Yeah.
It's just relaxing to come and enjoy. So, uh,
Fantastic. I want to learn more about your meditation with sound program.
mhm.
Can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Yes. Well, there's the sound meditation that we do in the new building. We might talk about that a little bit later, where we lie down. So we need quite a space for that. And I have different kinds of bells and of gongs and of anything that makes a sound. Yeah, that's how we do it in this picture. And I would, yeah, I have the bells and stuff in the middle, but I would also pick them up and walk around, and people in the meditation would have to like follow the sound as it moves within the room, and of course then the sound changes and everything. So it's constant, well, meditation, sitting meditation, I must say it's quite difficult, because you don't really have anything to focus on except maybe your breath or sensations in your body. But when we do sound meditation, you have the sound as a point to focus on. And since it changes location and the type of sound, it's much easier to get into that meditative state than if you do sitting meditation. So people who have not been doing regular meditation, for them it's really easy to enter and to start and to maybe get some interest in the meditation.
That sounds beautiful. I'd love to try that. I've heard from so many people recently that even though they spend so much time, like you said, at home or being
Mm,
quiet
mm,
because they're
yeah.
forced to isolate, they're
Uh,
still, even their minds are racing. They can't
yes.
stop stressing. So maybe having that sound to focus
Mm,
on
mm,
helps
mm.
them to clear their mind. Is that right?
Yes, yes, of course, definitely. Because once you have something to concentrate on, you cannot double think in your mind. I mean, it's possible, but it's much more difficult to have this noisy mind and still be concentrating on the sound. down. So it helps you to get out of that monkey mind. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sorry.
now
Yes.
is a good time to start talking about the new building.
Hmm.
I love this story about how you found all the old
Yeah.
wooden beams to reuse. It's
Yes,
fantastic.
yes, yes. Well, it started also with a very, very vague idea that I just wanted to have more space, because Horakuan, being a traditional farmhouse, does not have enough space for several people to use at the same time. For example, to do yoga or to do this kind of sound meditation. So I thought I want to have more space, and uh, there was that plot above Horagon where that new building is standing now, and another old farmhouse was there in, yeah, before, but it had fallen apart because nobody took care of it, and then it was pulled down. So I had used it just as a parking spot for people to come. And then I thought, yeah, well, it would be nice. And I asked about the price, and it was way, way, way too expensive. And then I just let it go. And after a while, the owner of that plot, he passed away. And then I thought, well, maybe they are more interested now, and the price goes down. But it was still, I mean, the official, I asked at the city hall, the official price was much too expensive. And then I asked the owner of a plot nearby what he would pay, just considering the location and the type and so on. And he said, well, so and so much. And I thought, yeah, that's possible. That if it's that amount, then I would buy it. And I had a member in my meditation group who was related to the owner family, and she asked them, would it be possible that they want to sell? And they said, well, yeah, definitely. And well, and she has not much money, would you be willing to pay to sell it for this kind of cheap amount? And they said yes, because nobody would be interested. And so I was really overjoyed that I could get it, and I prepared the money, and we signed the contract. And the in between, the member of my zazen group, she was there too. And once the owner left with my money and I was happy, they were happy, she pulled an envelope out of her bag and she said, well, please use this. And I opened it, and it was the money for that plot. So she bought it for me. So I well,
That's
then I thought,
amazing.
well, now I have this plot, but I mean, I really cannot use it as a parking spot place anymore. So then the next like miracle or synchronicity was that the member of our um, temple community at home, he had to fell a big tree, a big cedar tree, 10 meters long, almost. Where these are the pillars, so bigger than that one. It's the big one in the middle of the hall. So he had to get rid of that, and he wanted to make firewood out of it. And I said, no, yeah, this big one, this huge one in the middle. And well, I said, well, if I can have it, I will try to get it out and of your way. And he said, well, yeah, please do. And yeah, so you can see this 10-ton truck, and it just passed about 10 centimeters below the electric lines of the plot. So it was just a miracle to get it out of there. And then this huge truck had to transport this immense tree trunk. He had to drive backwards. and the road is very narrow, and it's just unbelievable how this truck could drive backwards with the curves and between the houses in the neighborhood. And yeah, anyway, so I had this big beam, and then where the owner of that company who transported this, there was one miracle before that. He asked me what kind of building do I want to build, and I said, well, I have no idea, but since the Horakuan building is 115 years old, it would be ideal to have, old wood, and old beams like that were used in the Horakuan building. And then he said, okay, I'll show you something. And he put me in his car and he took me to his lumber yard. And there was this huge hall with all these nicely stacked old beams. And I said, oh my goodness. And then he said, and that was really, really incredible. He said, you can use those, and I will give them to you. But if you imagine, I mean, we used about 50 old beams for the ceiling structure. And if you imagine that one of those beams costs between 100,000 yen or more, you can imagine how much money that he was giving me. I mean, come on, this was incredible. But it doesn't stop there, because now I had the beams, I had the big one in the middle, which of course I didn't use know how it would be used. But then he asked me, well, do you know a carpenter who can work with these kind of beams? And I said, well, of course, no idea. And then she said, well, I could introduce you to a friend, but I'm not sure whether he's willing to do it. So immediately after leaving from his place, from his company, I went up to the place that he introduced me to. And the carpenter was there, and I told him, well, I have been introduced by this and this person, and he told me you might be able to help me with my project. And then he said, no way, no way. I don't want to do a big project like that anymore. And then well, there was nothing I could do at that day. So I went back many times, back and forth and back and forth, and finally I had him, that he said, well, okay, I'll send you some pictures, but I'm not sure. You might not even like what I building. So I was waiting again. And then the email came with the attachment of the pictures, and I just couldn't believe it, because a few months earlier, when I wasn't really thinking about building anything myself, I went to a place near Matsumoto that is also a retreat type center, and I wanted to look at their programs to maybe get a few new ideas. But when I got there, I saw the building and I thought, oh my goodness, I've never seen anything like that before, because that was also using these whitewashed walls and the old beams and different kinds of woods, and it was just so beautiful. I had to use a light to get inside and take a lot of pictures of the building. And then I opened that email and saw that he was the carpenter who had done that building. So I immediately ran up there. He has his place up in the mountains from Susaka, and I told him, no way you can refuse me anymore, because I saw what you have been doing and you have to do this. And well, then he finally relented and he said, okay, if I get the young carpenters to help me, then we can go ahead. So another few weeks of really, will they be free to help? And then, yeah, this is one of them, of the young ones. And yeah, and then we could get the go ahead, and yeah, they started with the building. But yeah,
It's
it was
so what an
amazing.
amazing story.
Yes,
And
it was really,
that all that time that
yeah,
you spent, um it led to something. It was just like almost magical how things just
yes,
came together at last.
yes, yes,
I
yes.
love how traditional carpentry and these
Uh,
beautiful
yeah,
old beams, and then
yeah,
the new tree
yeah,
that was
yeah.
felled, how everything is
Mm,
put together so
mm,
beautifully with
mm.
notches and joinery instead of nails.
Yes,
It's
yes,
such a beautiful
yes.
tradition,
Y-
right?
Yeah, yeah, and it's not only that. I mean, the older carpenter, when the yeah carpenter. He had a flexible mind. We went into the woods, and we cut branches for the what's tesuri, for the handrails. You see a little bit up there in the picture, there's a rope and there's a handrails, and that are branches that we cut in the woods to use, and it's just, yeah, the ideas he had, but it's really to put one of those crooked beams into place, that takes a day at least, because these kind of measuring, even though they had a laser, it's very time consuming. And you can see here, it's a very hard work. And him on the beams, I mean, you
And
know
the use of the old style
yes,
tools
yes,
is
yes,
always fascinating to me when I talk to
yes.
traditional Japanese carpenters
Mm.
and how
Yes,
they
yes.
say these tools are the
uh,
best.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah. I took pictures for the whole year when they assembled it, and the type of cuts that they use to fix these beams together. It's just, every cut is different, and so complicated. And yeah, it was a huge learning process for myself. It was fascinating to watch. And this guy, I mean, this is not acrobatics. He was walking. He was working like this. I mean, it was not staged or anything. And there is no safety net and nothing below him. So it was a really a dangerous type of work, because on several days we had a huge rain, and there was a typhoon that in addition washed away the road. So we had to stop for several days until the Saga city could come up to fix the road, that the truck could come down there again. And yeah, these young carpenters were walking on these, well, they are not so narrow, but still, I mean, you have to carry the heavy tools, and you hold yourself with one hand and you use the tool with the other hand. And that also, the old carpenter, the same, up there walking and working like that. It was just mind-blowing, really.
That's
Yeah.
incredible because it's
Yes.
like he's doing the splits.
Yeah.
It's not like a comfortable way to stand, but
Really.
he was working like this.
Yes, he was working like
Amazing.
that. He was not doing any yoga or anything up there. I just caught the right moment for this chatter chance. He
It's a
was
beautiful
walking and
photo.
working like
Yeah,
that,
gorgeous.
definitely. Yes, yes.
And you were talking about the notches, right? Making the perfect size
Yes, like, and it
knots
was
so they
so
fit
much,
together.
yeah, and so much fine tuning and millimeter, it's really, and doing and recutting and refitting, and just, yeah, time consuming, amazing. They, of course, they also human, so they made two very, very nice mistakes, I must say. Two of the beams, they were too short. Yeah, you see the opening on the left, that's actually the DJ booth, and there's an vertical beam right there, a little bit crooked. This beam was fit in later, because the horizontal beam on top, the black one, that was too short, so they cut it about, what, 50, 60 centimeters from the pillar, and fixed the standing one in there. So that was an addition that they hadn't planned, but I thought, this is so nice and such a nice mistake and so beautiful, but only to fit this one in took a whole day. And
Wow.
another one is at the altar. um, and maybe, I don't know, the altar picture, there's another one. Yeah, but you don't see it here. Sorry, no. And that is also a very nice addition, because it was just too short, and he had to fit another one in there. And yeah, it took a long time, but it's
Wow.
beautiful. Uh,
Well, the finished product, these mistakes
yes,
become such beautiful, unique
yes,
points
yes,
of
yes,
appeal, right? Like
yes,
they don't,
definitely.
they might see it as a mistake,
Mm.
but then they make it work. I love that
Exactly. Yes. And if you look
creativity.
again at that picture with the DJ booth, there is that wooden grid in the wall, in the whitewashed wall, this wavy line. And behind that, there are these, where it's like a wooden grid. And at first, the carpenter said, no, this, you cannot show that. This is actually below the white wall, the plaster, and it has to be covered up. And I said, no, this grid looks so beautiful. And actually, I put a lamp behind there. So there is light. And then the carpenter, where he landed, where I was insisting, and then he said he made this wavy line. I thought he would just leave an opening, but then he was, one step one step further ahead of me, and he made this beautiful wavy soft line. And it's just another feature there that I really, really love. Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful.
Mm.
I think you speaking of the DJ booth has prompted this next comment from
Uh-huh.
Tiffany Rossdale, who is now a life coach, but she was a Tokyo DJ for many years.
Oh,
And
yes.
she says, thank you for introducing
uh,
Dorothy to your
uh,
show. She personally did a silent retreat in
ah.
Bali for
Mhm.
several weeks that changed her
Oh,
life for
yes,
the
I'm
best,
sure. Yeah.
and she now hosts wellness retreats in
Oh.
Japan. So she would love to connect with
Oh,
you.
that's interesting. Oh, definitely, definitely. I hope we can put my email address somewhere, or the homepage address, and I definitely would like to do that, because that would could become a very fruitful collaboration. Definitely. Yes, yes.
Yeah. And we need more retreats where
Oh,
people
yes.
can refresh and
Yeah.
recover from. It's not
Mm.
only the physical stress of work anymore.
No.
We have so much new emotional and
Mm.
mental
Mm.
stress that we need to work
Yeah.
on, right?
Yeah, well, I always have the difficulty to explain what a retreat is to Japanese people, because, well, they might have heard of a yoga retreat, or macrobiotic eating, or in a retreat. But a retreat in the sense of focusing on yourself and recentering and grounding and all that, and that's a new idea to Japanese people. And of course, during the Zen retreats, we talk about ourselves, our experiences, and sometimes also what really worries are, and it gets personal, definitely, and that's good and that's important. But Japanese people, they are, well, it's not in the Japanese culture to talk about yourself and to focus on yourself. So in that sense, I have difficulties to get the idea of a retreat and the importance of a retreat, because Japanese people might think, or they do think, well, it would be egoistic to take time out just for themselves. And what would the neighbors say? What would the family say if I just stay there a few days, and it's only for my own pleasure? But I have to always stress that the time you take out for yourself, you take a lot of that back to your everyday life. And I mean, even if it's only a smile, you bring that back to your family, and that's good for your family too. It's not only good for yourself. So everything you gain in a retreat will come to life in your own home, and in your work. So it's so necessary to step out of that everyday hustle and to do something completely different, and to get quiet, and to to reflect on yourself, and maybe some issues you have. And it's very, very healing, and relaxing also, and it's not stressful, really. We don't do any long meditation hours that you have to fold your legs and it's painful. We don't do anything like that. No, it's also about your relaxation. But In a sense, of course, you have to get out of your comfort zone to some extent. Otherwise, you don't have any kind of gain. So, getting up early in the morning would be very much getting out of comfort zone for many people. But it's so refreshing if you do it for a few days. And it's not that you don't have any time to relax during the day. So yeah, it's a mixture of getting out of comfort and having a little bit of a hard time, but not stressful.
Yeah, that sounds great. And
Mm.
you have day programs and also overnight programs, is that right?
Yes, yes. The Zen retreats are always 3 days for 3 nights, 4 days, and before it was even longer. But it's a little bit difficult. I can only do programs with at least 2, 3 people. I can't do a one-on-one. But if it's just for a talk, like I said before, coming for some coffee or for some tea, for some talk, anytime, definitely. But to prepare for overnight, one night is also not possible, but it's just too much work. So at least 2 nights. And I always offer to talk about people what they would like, what kind of program they would like. So it's not that I have fixed programs that is always the same. It's always different. But what is always the same is the morning and the evening routine with a walking meditation and sitting meditation. And in the evening, it's again sitting meditation. But during the day, the kind of um, creative activities or other activities, more focus on talking or more focus on text reading, that is always different. Uh.
Wonderful. And you must be enjoying this new building, this
Oh,
new
yes.
reused wood and beautiful design building.
Yes,
It looks
yes.
gorgeous inside and
Mm,
so relaxing
mm,
and
mm.
such a wonderful,
Yeah.
comforting space.
Yeah, yeah. I did all the lamps that are in that building myself, and I made the curtains. I did a lot of work myself. I painted all the white walls, and I painted the outside, and I polished the beams. So yeah, it was very, very hard work to do, and very dirty and very cold during winter. And yeah, but I know everything where the material comes from, and so I have a very close connection to the building. Yeah, and it's yeah, I designed the altar and everything. This is yeah the when the beams and everything went up before the roof was built. That was the carpenter crew. Yeah, nice guys,
They're
everybody.
amazing. Did you
And
help
yeah.
with the building at all or just
Yes,
stand
yes, I
back
did
and
a
take
lot.
photos
Uh,
and
yeah, I
cheer
of
them
course,
on?
yeah, I didn't do any carpentry work. Of course, I have no knowledge, but I did the cement walls inside and outside, and the white not in the hall, but in this altar. That's what the carpenter did. That was too difficult. But this brown color, I did everything. So that was very, very heavy work because it was like a 3-story building from as far as the height is concerned. So to carry all these heavy buckets with stuff up and down and up and down and mixing the cement by hand. I mean, I had a hand mixer, but still that is very, very heavy work. But yeah,
It's
otherwise I
really
couldn't.
hard work.
Yes,
And
yes.
you're in your 70s now, aren't you?
Well, not yet. I will be 70
Okay.
next year. No, yeah, yeah, next
You're
year. So
70 years young. It's
yes, yes. I
amazing.
don't feel. I mean, this is just a number. It's not
It's just
anything.
a
Yeah,
number.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a number.
fantastic.
Yeah, the
Can you
building
tell
was.
us?
Sorry.
Go
Yes.
ahead.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
building was finished in 2019, so it's still quite new, definitely. Yeah.
nice. Can you tell us a little bit about the original building? Is this inside the original building?
Yes, this is Horakuan, the old farmhouse building, and this one was especially this meditation space was the dirtiest place in the room because they had been um, raising silkworms in there. So it was really, really dirty. The walls were black, and these were, of course, two rooms. I took out the middle wall and the sliding doors, and where the altar is, that was a cabinet. So I used old doors for I cut in half and used for a storage place, and then this long thick bamboo pole as a decoration. And the back of the wall is cedar wood, and I made that myself. So yeah, I did a lot of work. Of course, there was no tatami and no wooden floor in here before. It was a dirty pink carpet. I mean, it was, I don't know. Anyway, if I look at the pictures, what it looked like before, it has improved very, very much.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
I really admire the curved beams.
Yes.
When
Yes.
I talked to Japanese carpenter in Okayama, John Stolenmeyer, he
Mm,
talked about how rare it is to have this curved beams, that most
mm,
of the modern beams
mm.
are exactly straight.
Yes.
So
Yes.
having
Mm,
this beautiful curvature
mm,
of
mm,
the
mm,
old
mm,
style beam
mm,
work
mm.
is so beautiful. And you
Yeah.
have that in your original building as
Yes,
well, it
but
looks
it's
like.
not only because it's beautiful. I don't think that the people in former times used it for beauty, but it's for stability. And there is something called teppo sugi, which is a type of cedar that you find in Itoigawa, that's in Niigata prefecture, which is curved from or bent from the wind. And they use these kind of curved ones to support the heavy structures. So it's definitely for structural reasons that they use especially these curved woods. Yeah.
So beautiful.
But I mean,
Um,
then you can
yeah,
imagine how difficult it is to fix those together, because every beam is different in size and in curve type. And, yeah, to combine it. And as you can see in the meditation room, the last picture, the standing ones are straight. But the ones to have to support the roof and the heavy, they are curved. So you can see that is the reason why they use these ones. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
Because
Mm.
in this picture of the new wood, everything looks so
Yes.
straight, right?
Yeah, that is for the pillars, they have to be straight. I mean, that would be difficult if they were curved. But yeah, they came from Matsumoto area, and to peel the bark was really, it was about 34 degrees when I was doing this. And to peel it was a little bit late that these were cut, so the peel didn't come off, and I worked days and days and days to get these peels off. I mean, how many? I don't know how many of these pillars I have been peeling. Yeah, that was a hard work.
It's incredible. But then
Mm.
looking at your picture here with you relaxing at the new
Yes.
building next to
Uh,
everything's done, you
yeah.
look
Mm.
totally happy and
Yes.
content and ready
Mm.
to have a
Mm.
Zen meditation, right?
Well, I think I look more ready to have a cup of coffee here. It's probably way after the meditation in the morning, so I'm more ready for the coffee or for the tea and for the snacks. I'm very much into sweets. So yeah.
As
Uh,
many of us are.
mm.
It gets us through the day.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, we have just under 10 minutes now, but 7 minutes left. Can you leave us with some kind of Zen philosophy that we might take to our day and try to be more mindful? Or can you give us a little bit of advice how to
Um,
be more Zen?
well, um,
I
yeah,
know it's difficult.
that's definitely difficult, but Zen is very down to earth. So take the things at face value. I mean, don't fret about it. Yeah, actually, you learn through meditation, you develop some kind of strength that is called joriki, to be able to do with any kind of unexpected situations. And that is something that I like very much about Zen, that it's practical. And yeah, another word, kufu, means to improvise and to be able to use stuff, like also in the building, materials that you have in an unusual way, to make it practical but also beautiful. So yeah, focus on the practicality. That's very much Zen. Yeah, mindfulness, I like the term awareness better, which means you have your antennas out, you catch what is coming. Mindfulness is when you do something, you focus on a special thing, that is mindfulness. But awareness is more, you have the overall, you have your eyes also to the left and the right, and you catch what is coming. So
Ah, I
that's a
like
very
that.
big difference. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are mindful in doing something, but before that you have to be aware of what's going on, that you can be mindful. So to say. Mm.
Wonderful. From your website here, you have a wonderful page of impressions of
Ah,
people who have spent so much wonderful time at
mm.
Horakuan. Some people spent 2 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yes, yes. Mm.
learning meditation and staying there with you.
Yes, yes, that is more also for helping out with the work. That's not only for meditation, but just to spend time there and helping in exchange for free stay. That's called Workaway. That's a different program, a worldwide page that you can, yeah, apply for. Yeah,
Yeah. I love the feedback and some poetry, step by
yeah.
step, letting my feet roll
Mm.
slowly from heel to toe. I'm
Mm.
one with the forest. The chirping of the insects gives my
Mm.
breathing rhythm. Beautiful.
Yes, yes. I mean, I always like if people who join me for work are creative themselves, like artists. I mean, not really artists, but have this kind of creative streak that they can put into practice. And a lot of nice things have come out of that. Yeah. And I hope that the people who would like to come do contact me, and we can get in touch and plan something together or meet up somewhere. Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, definitely. The best way to get in touch is through horakuan.net, your website, right?
Yes, and my email is horakuan@gmail.com. So Horakuan,
Fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
And you sent me a photo where it looks like you're talking with
Oh
students. Do
yes,
you
that was
sometimes
the
have students visit?
that's the local elementary school kids, and we did some Zen program meditation, and they had to learn how to put their shoes nicely in the entrance, and then they learned how to chant. And yeah, one of the older ones was the 30-minute priest, so he had the clothes and everything, and we did the chanting together. That was a lot of fun. Yes.
That's wonderful. I think we need to encourage kids to also find ways for
Mm.
them to relax. We know that
Yes.
even during this pandemic, we as adults, we feel stress, but also the children are feeling
Oh yes,
stress, right?
yes, yes, and they have a lot of peer pressure, and social media pressure. So they should learn how to focus on themselves too, and to get courage again. So many of the kids are, yeah, they lost confidence, and they have to get that confidence back to really deal with what's coming up every day, and that's a big, big issue. Mm.
Yeah. I one of your interviews, you said a lot of Japanese people look too much to other people, and
Yes,
they need to look
yes.
a little bit
Oh,
more
yes.
into
Yes.
themselves.
Yes. That's also a confidence issue, I would say. That you don't look at the face, what does the other person want to hear from me, but that you have, that is called shujinko in Zen, that you are in the driver's seat of your life, and not someone else, and not some conventions, and what you are expected to do. But you can do anything as long it's your own decision. I mean, yeah, and it doesn't hurt anybody, but only because it's expected, do something because it's expected, that's not the right way to live, I think.
Well, you are a wonderful example for all of us about the power of the individual and the
Yes,
individual's passion to
yes,
create
yes. Uh,
something which helps
uh,
other people,
yes,
right?
yeah, don't give up. Really, I would say, if you have a vision, don't give up. Just don't give up. It will happen. That's something I really, really learned. And the Japanese have a word, goen, which is the connection, and goen will happen if you focus on it, if you don't give up. But still have to be flexible about it. I mean, yeah, if you are flexible and yeah, don't give up, it will happen.
I
Mm.
love that idea, the go in of
Mm.
envisioning
Yes,
where you want to
yes,
be or
yes,
what you want to do.
yes,
That's a really
yes,
good way to
yes,
think.
yes. If I wouldn't have had that vision, that new building wouldn't stand. I mean, I did that without any plan, without any estimate, without anything. And I couldn't tell that to anybody. So, yeah, it's still there.
You did it.
Yes, yes,
Congratulations. I
yes.
can't wait. I can't wait to come and visit in
Oh, that would be
person.
great. That would be great. Yes, you're most welcome.
I would love that. I
Mm.
look forward to being around all that
Mm.
beautiful natural quiet,
Yes, 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 definitely. Yeah.
going on a mindful meditation walk with you.
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. Thank you
Uh,
so much,
Thank you
Dorothy.
very much. Yes, yes, I enjoyed it. Bye bye.
Have a wonderful day,
Yes,
everyone. Thank you
yes.
for joining.
Uh, Goodbye.
Take care. Bye.